But nonetheless, game number 2. Let's see if CLG can close this one out now.
And it's going to be a tight one because they are coming into this kind of from, you know, the behind footing. Trifecta, though, I don't believe that they're a team that'll really be too swayed one way or the other, despite taking a pretty heavy loss in that first game, because it was close, at least during the earlier stages. And this is what I wanted to see right away. Hurriwind, on the honest, was just such safe gameplay. It completely eliminates everything that Paul wants to try and look for, because we saw plenty of moments where Paul would be dashing forward, trying to find the stuns, trying to find the bombs, but good luck against Giannis with that.
Exactly. This allows him to do a little bit more of what he wants. Guan Yu also going to be banned, kind of standard. Expect to see a lot of the horse band banned out. Athena going to be banned out by the blue and white, so Trifecta option over to them.
Well, with Athena and Giannis not being eligible for this game, I do really like the Xbalanque pickup, because last time this is actually a ban in the top 2 by Trifecta. I believe that was their secondary ban. So now that they have the Xbalanque, that's already going to kind of help them with their theme of controlled chaos. I do believe that that is an environment that really benefits Trifecta pretty heavily.
Counterlogic Gaming here going to pick the Fafnir and the Hachiman. This is where Trifecta picked it last time, number 1 and number 2. Interesting here. Why Fafnir and Hachiman just right away?
Snoopy can still afford to play aggressive, and you never really know if that's going to be a flex pick or not. And Hachiman is just such a safe pick. It gives Homiefe and fineokay an opportunity to see whether or not they need to pick something in a response.
How about that Fafnir, though? I mean, that's kind of the weird
Fafnir's a safe pick, though.
Sure.
It still runs the same theme of being safe, and I do feel whenever you see a Fafnir, you can kind of expect a heavy siege composition to come forward. Raw also further funneling into this thought process, too, because he's one of the siege kings right now.
Absolutely is. Ganesha and Hercules will pair up with Xbalanque for Trifecta as we head into the second round. Ra will be the mid lane of choice for CLG. I love that. I think Hurriwind looks good on characters like this, so that'll be good. CLG, because of the Ra, will ban out the Odin, and still looking at the Hebo for Paul.
I think that that's just one of those picks where CLG could probably allow him to have it, but considering that Hurriwind has shown some struggles in the past in the mid lane laning phase, I don't think that they want to put Hurriwind at an automatic deficiency to where he has to play super passive. I think that they want to make sure that he can safely acquire farm, plus Hawa's burst would be strong enough to deal with the Ra.
See, that was also what I was concerned about, is the fact that you can talk about goading Paul into playing hyper-aggressive as his tendency. Sorry about that. But the Hebo is a character that you can punish, but you punish after 2 of your players are already dead, so getting rid of that one. Naja, though, for Trifecta, man. You want to talk about mass characters, he's getting both of them here.
That is a scary pick to see, but also it could be super positive for them. The Naja Raijin combination, they're trying to One Punch Man hit you with all of the damage, and I don't think that they were able to find it in the last game when they were literally playing One Punch Man, but now it's going to be Homie's turn on the Mercury into this Naja, and my primary concern right now for Trifecta is the fact that Naja has not been a very popular god because of the tendencies for teams to opt towards Magai's Cloak, and I think that could be an issue here in this game.
Sure, I think it certainly will be something to look at, but I'm staring at Raijin. I spent a lot of time watching the console series, watching the minor league as well. Paul does the Raijin, and he does the Raijin well. Compared, I'll find it eventually. Combined with the Naja is a really scary pick. Trifecta have a lot of power in their side. Also, new Hunter, old Hunter, Metyankey on the Xbalanque. I like this draft. I like the last draft, though, Taco. Which way is this going?
I still lean a little bit more towards CLG's composition, but I really like Trifecta's draft, too.
Counterlogic Gaming, I think, might have this one. I certainly like a lot of their picks. Mercury in the jungle is always scary. Let's get to the action. It's Finch and Tolly.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Taco. Mercury in the jungle is scary, especially when you don't have to worry about a wall from a Thor to ruin your day, right, Totally? So maybe a little bit easier this time for Homie on the Mercury instead.
Both these teams having very identical picks and bans in terms of their style, because on the flip side now it's going to be CLG piloting the Mercury, whereas it was on the mask side. Yeah, like they take the Fafnir, they take the Hachiman, they take the Mercury away from Trifecta's side. Meanwhile, they take the Hercules away from fineokay. It's now going to be for a scary D. And I'm really surprised that third pick for CLG was the Ra. When Nemesis and Circuit was available, they needed some sort of anti-healing or to shut down Hercules, because what Scary D was not able to do on the Achilles, fineokay was able to do like 10 times as much. So I think that Scary D is going to have a phenomenal game.
Well, we'll see. Who do you think will win, though? Do you agree with Tola? We're going to see a good game coming out here for the side of CLG, or do you disagree? You think Trifecta can bounce back? You get a chance to vote here in the poll before the game actually starts, but sounds like we're just about ready to move into it, so why not? Why delay any further? Let's get going. Paul on the Raijin. Another one of those picks that he always plays. In fact, both these teams, I feel like, or not just both these teams, but Mask and Paul both on very comfort picks.
Does a lot of damage, the Percussive Storm, with that 60 magical power in a very short cooldown, about 10 seconds, I believe. So he's able to clear the speed buff and also keep up with the clear from the Ra, which also has a 10-second Celestial Beam cooldown.
Hurriwind going to be trying to match up with what Paul is capable of, but you talked about how this is going to help out with the early clear for Paul. That's going to be important. He wants to get as far ahead as he can, so he can try and synergize up with Mask. If he takes you up into the air of Mask and that's not enough damage, when he brings you down, Paul's going to be right there waiting with a drum solo you do not want to hear.
It's going to be difficult for Mask to find the targets in the mid to late game, like Taco was talking about with the Mad Guy's Cloak. So he needs to find them early on, electing for the beats to play it safe, not going to opt for the blink and forcing any sort of engagements.
fineokay goes in early for clear, but it is a little surprising. We see a lot of Najahs with the blinks. Maybe he'll pick it up at level 12. He does have to worry about, though, the Mercury in the jungle. If he gets caught out, there's a ton of control there, so the beads probably to help make sure he doesn't fall early to Homie.
It's almost like a glass cannon fight between these two, Mask and Homiefe. It's like kill or be killed. That's what the name of the game will be. So that's why a lot of Najahs will elect to go for that blink, because they can look for the play onto the enemy jungler, catch them slipping, and have their mid follow up.
Homie is making an early rotation over to dual lane, and Metyankey just used the dash. Misses it though, does Homie. That was way off.
He definitely needed to connect that, but it would definitely have forced the purification beats anyway out of Metyankey, and with the sprint being used, I'm pretty sure he was just going to survive, but at least getting the defensive relic would have allowed for a secondary attempt.
Mass not able to quite find the sash in middle lane. Do you think maybe the call there from Homie was to intentionally not grab on, like he didn't want to get caught out too far, or something to that effect? Because, I mean, or not from Mass, but Homie rather, I mean, because it was a bit curious to see, but either way, they make it out of there. They don't force the beads, but they force the sprint away from me.
That's going to be a long cooldown, and Jigz still has his sprint of his own that's upgraded. They're able to play aggressive if they really choose to. Xbalanque, the way Metyankey is playing it, is he's leveling the branching bola at level 1, trying to get that damage going, trying to build some of those stacks after the changes of not needing the kills anymore. You just need a little bit of damage to get those physical power stacks.
Neil is able to find the dash onto Jigz, but no more follow-up from that. Metyankey's got to look for those damage stacks you're alluding to elsewhere, Toli. Part of what's making Xbalanque so strong here lately. He was already rather strong. It felt like so difficult to get him through the early game that you could never make it to the late. Now it is easier to get him through the early. He gets the passes stacked a lot sooner now since he does off damage instead of kills, and able to get to that point where he's the Xbalanque you know and love a little sooner.
And he's just a different style also between these two games because of the god that he was piloting and between the god that he was facing. Last game when he was playing the Hachiman against Snoopy's Artemis, you don't really want to try to box into that. But this game, Xbalanque against the Hachiman, yeah, you definitely could look for some poke potential and try to get that, 5, 10 physical power before the 5-minute mark.
And Snoopy's got to be careful. I don't know how much he really wants to have that fight and feed further into Metyankey's passive. You can kind of see he is just kind of waiting, letting the minions die. This is what you have to do up against the Xbalanque, to not feed into it too much and let him get it stacked incredibly early.
NeiruMah just kind of waiting around because he identifies that Mask is right around the corner. The target is Jigz.
Tried to use the ring bounce, try and get some extra slow, but it didn't get all the way from the minion wave. So Mask got the sash, is not going to be able to catch up. A good initiation, but just a little bit of circumstance not working their way, and they can't follow up.
This time it's Scary D that's trying to look for the potential proxying, but if fineokay forcing the sprint with Homiefe right around the corner. Excavate is available. fineokay is not in lethal range quite yet.
He's still in the cripple field, so no driving strike. Ultimate doesn't land from Homie, but they should be able to get the root here. Immediately goes into the boulder. It's just not enough damage for fineokay. Scary D only needs a little bit more damage if he can find it, but he can't. fineokay grabs first blood, and now Hurriwind is trading with Paul, the newbie, able to take down Hurriwind in the mid lane.
Wow, is that a solo kill onto Hurriwind? Paul catching Hurriwind slipping. You don't have the portals this time, unfortunately, for Tyler. He got caught slipping. Red buff for Paul, definitely doing a lot of work with this fully complete Bancroft's talent, this 100 magical power. Paul, some people call him a one-trick pony, but hey, if you don't have an answer to it, it's always going to work, so why not do it?
You don't need a second one if the first one works, and I'm a little curious by Hurriwind, because that's what Paul wants every time. He wants to fight you in the mid lane. He's building to fight sooner than you are. He's playing gods that are going to fight better than you are early on, rather than like Hurriwind, who wants to kind of fight with the team. I'm a little curious that he took that fight. It was kind of aggressive forward where Paul was, so maybe he just caught Hurriwind out.
It's one of these things where newer players trying to prove themselves a little bit more, so they're going to take those risks and try to look for those flashy highlight plays. But the question is, can he go the distance? Does he have the late game prowess that a lot of higher caliber SPL teams really need, and the proper positioning to survive in some of these late game team fights? Is, you know, Paul gets the 1 kill, but what can he get more afterwards?
He might be able to go the distance. He has Hercules on his side after all, so maybe that'll work in his favor. Scary D did end up taking a spill over there after the continued pressure from fineokay and Homie. I don't even know if I want to call it a gank because it was so prolonged. Really, it was just a 2v1, and they eventually were able to chase him out, and Paul did a good job to even it up with a 1-for-1 trade up against Hurriwind.
There was a small window where Scary D could have found the kill, but he missed a driving strike, so he didn't even bother using the excavate immediately after until he realized that it was too little too late. He needed to get off at least some return damage, and he was really hoping for the potential bounce back, but the way fineokay was spacing out and positioning himself, he made sure that he didn't have his back turned against the wall. So if the excavate came out on top of the Artio, it wouldn't have bounced and found the second or even the triple bounce.
Mask recognizing that Homie has stripped some of his jungle. They actually have a ward down there. Do Trifecta to give him some extra vision. Mask is lurking, waiting on fineokay to come too far forward. Is going to go with, looks like really not much of anything. They don't want to take this full-on fight just yet. Just going to clear this one together. A little bit too strong, the fineokay Homiefe duo.
It's going to be a stun onto fineokay, but the pull is off the mark. Triple minefield means that there's no driving strike. Scaredy could be the target. Beads was even used from Mask. He was thinking that Homiefe was about to let loose that ultimate.
That's a really big win for CLG, or for CLG rather, than getting Mask to use those beads there without any kind of commitment. Rotation is on though. Paul wants to try and catch out Homiefe. He comes over the Thunder Crash. Immediately that means Homiefe has to use the beads, but it's not enough. Mask able to chase him down. Homie's gone.
He needed to use the ultimate immediately after defensively beating and defensively dashing away. Hurriwind playing the Raw, doesn't have the Giannis portals to use that through space and time and save his jungler. I like the idea behind invading the speed buff. Yes, the beats were down for Mask, but if you don't have the mid pressure because Paul was able to solo Hurriwind, then that speed buff becomes so much riskier that it's almost not even worth going for.
And it's such an aggressive path that Homie took that, I mean, by the time he got any information, the Searing Pain comes through from Hurriwind, he couldn't really have avoided it. You saw him looking back and realizing he was in no man's land, but the collapse was fully on. He could not make it out of it, not even with the help of the purification beads, and takes a spill.
Not only is the God pool similar between these two teams, but identifying each other's playbooks has been just so easy, I believe, for Trifecta to see what CLG wants to do. On the flip side as well, whenever Mask makes these rotations, he gets easily deflected.
Now, it's still very early on here. We're only 8 minutes into the game, and not very much gold separates these teams, if any at all. About 500 experience and really no gold. So it's still very, very even, as that might change. Gold Fury being pulled by CLG. They have the AoE coerce, but they recognize this is happening. Mask is here, Metyankey as well to try and defend Gold Fury very low, and CLG are the ones who are able to grab it. Metyankey finds a kill, as does Mask. 2 for 0 so far, as Trifecta continue to push.
The sprint is being used. Jigz runs away east. Hurriwind on the north side, not able to find a third kill, but that's still good for Trifecta as Metyankey builds more damage up in the sky. Mask takes out Jigz, but he's still half health.
Lands right back down to the Searing Pain damage. Actually, Hurriwind is there with the strong follow-up, so Mask has got to leave, but Paul has more than enough damage to take down Jigz. 3 lives for the Gold Fury. I don't know about that math, Tolly.
It just kind of evens out the gold playing field, but if we look at the charts just to see where their experience lies, it's starting to get a little bit higher, about 1,500 for Trifecta, as Metyankey is going to get higher and higher towards that max out 30 physical power cap. And with this advantage even, he's going to hold the lane right by his tower, freezing it to deny any sort of farm to Snoopy.
And this is what worked for CLG in Game 1, right? Playing around the objectives, trying to sneak them away from Trifecta or force them into bad fights. But this time, with Paul on the Raijin having so much damage with Mask on the very aggressive Naja, they were able to catch CLG out when they overcommitted to that Gold Fury Mercury and get a bunch of kills back.
It was a very interesting call from CLG because of the ultimate from Roz. Metyankey has to use the beats away from this gank. He uses the ultimate to increase the range. It goes to 10 range. NeiruMah needs to get in position to drop the Dharmic Pillars. I think his dash is already down. He's not in that vicinity. Great recognition from Metyankey of the ultimate. It doesn't just stop the enemy vision, but it extends your branching bowler ranges so far.
And still, Homie may have lived, but they at least force him back, and that means they can come in and start looking for more farm in the jungle, can go aggressive like they are onto Jigz. He's up in the air. Mask is the one that has him right now, bringing him right back down into the searing pain damage from Hurriwind, but it's not enough. Mask is still able to find Jigz either way. Trifecta punish yet again.
Another pick off. Trifecta really have some momentum running under themselves, and I was talking about the initial call to do the Gold Fairy from CLG. Before that call was made, Hurriwind used the Searing Pain to steal away the left mid Harpies. And without that Searing Pain to confirm the Gold Fury, it took CLG a little bit longer to do the Gold Fury than they would have wanted to. And as a result, they lost 3 members. I'm not saying that Searing Pain would have prevented those 3 deaths, but normally a lot of teams won't even make that call if you don't have the mid-mage ultimate to begin with. So they must have identified that Trifecta were slightly out of position and took the gamble.
They really did force the Gold Fury. Maybe they felt like at a certain point they couldn't leash it anymore, or Trifecta would just keep it for free. But either way, they end up paying for it dearly on the back end. And a great job off the work that Metyankey did in the duo lane. He doesn't kill Homie, but he almost does, right? He puts him back to base. It's essentially the same thing. And without having to worry about Homie in the jungle, Mask can aggressively go take Jigz' life.
The Searing Pain trying to confirm the red buff, and a little bit mistimed. I don't think that CLG had the... Oh, they did have a ward actually inside the red buff, but there was a lot of burst damage from Trifecta. Searing Pain not available, and CLG losing in tier 1 mid tower now is Trifecta grouping up with Scary D that's level 12. Not the... It's usually a lot later when the Soliners make this rotation, so the fact that Scary D is already present in the dual lane, present in the mid lane, is a great look for Trifecta that has this 6-1 kill lead at 12 minutes.
I love this from Trifecta. This feels like the bare knuckle way to get things done. They just go into the tier 1, just take it in mid lane. You know, they don't have any big advantage. No one's dead. They just know that they have they're up right now. They have the lead and force CLG to try and come defend, and they can't. Tier 1 tower goes the way of Trifecta to add to their lead as Metyankey has to try and defend up against Snoopy in the duo lane.
Trying to make something happen potentially as there's a rotation from NeiruMah. He could look to play aggressive, but Snoopy just looking for the farm. He's not going to overcommit quite yet. Still trying to get 15, about a couple more stacks rather, of that Devourer's Gauntlets, trying to finish out that Executioner. Whereas Metyankey really likes this Ikavile Rush. He wants to make sure that he's going to prevent some of the damage coming from some of these physical carries out of CLG.
That's going to help him out a good deal as it continues to move forward here in this game. Playing very aggressive. fineokay right now. I guess both solo laners really are going for that proxy farm, but has a chance to meet up with Mask here in the jungle as he tries to take those bad Harpies, and Max is exactly there. Tries to help take those away and just comes back to join Paul. So no real fighting over it, just kind of helping contest the buff.
CLG trying to just casually farm with Hurriwind having the Warlock staff sitting at 83 stacks. That's another reason why Trifecta are very frisky. They want to force these fights before there's too much health out of Hurriwind's Raw. That's why they were looking for several picks onto him. He's definitely learned his lesson that this Raijin is going to be providing a lot of damage, and considering he's playing the Raw, doesn't have the escapes like last game, he needs this boost of health.
They go aggressively into the jungle, do Trifecta for the red buff. This is what I mean by bare knuckle. You know, they're not really waiting on advantages. They're just like going in and forcing a fight from CLG. The ultimate comes out from Metyankey, and Gold Fury's already been confirmed. fineokay pulled into the Taiko drums. No chance to play the game. Paul takes him down as well. 7-1 for Trifecta and the Gold Fury.
This time, Trifecta are the ones to confirm the Gold Fury. Very calculated. They zoned away far enough. Not only did they have a window, but with Scary D zoning, they found a very clean pick on top of that up in the sky, and comes landing back down. Jigz trying to jump away, will not do so. 2 clean picks out of Trifecta, now transitioning to the right side of the map.
Yeah, this Pyromancer is going to be theirs. They may even look towards the Fire Giant despite how early it is. And already Homie has to consider if he wants to come in and fire. Is the call? We're 14.5 minutes into this game, totally. You've got to be careful. Homie's here to try and contest, has the ultimate being charged up. Hurriwind is nearby as well, but Scary D is the one on zone duty. They're going to stay on this. They want this Fire Giant.
There's no Thorwall to cut off Homiefe's escape, and it's just a natural bait. There's a lot of damage coming through. The Mage Look will not snatch it away. Homiefe, though, needs to find the escape angle.
Now they're going to try and chase down Homiefe. 14-minute Fire
the
Giant
silence is so
going to
good.
help them out. Beads is enough to get him away from the silence. He's charging the ultimate, and he does have an escape path even through the tower, so just barely has he lived through that. Mask just going to settle for stealing the buff instead. Is actually Snoopy.
Can he? Oh, he stopped the back. Homiefe still trying to run on the left side. There is no blink available for Mask, but he's right next to 3 other members. If Mask gets ahead of himself, he could be the one in trouble.
Mask has got to recognize now there's going to be plenty of backup coming, but Snoopy at least found a tier 2 tower. He's not done. He sashes onto fineokay and takes a bunch of poke back in return. Meanwhile, Scary D has finally tracked down Mercury, but sent the boulder the wrong way.
It's Paul's turn.
With the Taiko drums, though, more than enough to take him down.
Trading 2 ultimates for the life of Homiefe in the grave for 30 seconds. Fire Giant on Trifecta. They lost the first game, but are looking to control the second and tie this set if they can get some more gold under their belt, because CLG are still keeping it even gold-wise, but the experience is starting to get a little bit dicey.
And what a bounce back it's been for Trifecta here, because that first game was kind of rough. CLG really, it felt like, ran it from start to finish, but now it's Trifecta, this time using their aggression perfectly to punish CLG when they overcommit onto Gold Furies, to start fights themselves. Just like this, Scary D is looking for fineokay and is going to push him back towards the rest of the team.
Getting the cripple minefield out as Scary D is just zoning out the rest of CLG as Trifecta get the tier 2 tower in duel. He's not going to try to go off too far forward, just going to regroup, recollect their efforts. Paul doesn't have his ultimate quite yet, and that's the reason why Trifecta are holding off.
Tier 2 tower is still standing, but Trifecta are posturing like they want to continue. Remember, they have Fire Giant. CLG trying not to let too much of a lead be given up all at once, or this game might just instantly be over. Homie on the right-hand side is lurking. He has the ultimate available if he wants to come crashing through the top side. As actually looks like might have been the beads forced out from Snoopy. They were.
Going to go forward because Jigz' ultimate is not available. He used that Draconic form to hold on to that tier 2 tower for a little bit longer, which stops Trifecta from going for the Phoenix afterwards. But losing another 1,500 gold on top of this puts CLG in a deficit of 5,000 gold.
But Trifecta got this Gold Fury in 14.5 minutes. I mean, if all they get is some tier 2 towers out of it, I mean, it was well worth it. Because, I mean, at this point in the game, they shouldn't have it. They just shouldn't have it, totally. And they have that much control. They have that much pressure that now they can take down a couple tier 2 towers. And that's where the real gold lead starts to come from.
Ooh, Homiefe snatching away the speed buff. Mask is probably like scratching his head. Like, when did he have time to do that one? As he just narrowly escapes as they identify that their left side jungle still is available to him. And that's going to be a nice play for Homiefe to deny that momentum for Mask and try to get back in the game, because he's 2 levels behind him. Whenever I see a level 13 Mercury as opposed to level 15 Naja, I'm not really too worried about that damage, especially before the crit is online.
At this point, Mask has certainly had more of an impact than Homie has here in this game so far. The sashes have been on point. He's been ulting targets, and even before the rest of the team is there to give them time to come in and full-on commit, it's been a great engine for this Trifecta roster, working together with Paul as they grab Pyromancer for themselves to make sure that whoever they catch out, they delete almost instantly.
Another minute and a half before the Fire Giant respawns. With the 30-second window of the buff, I don't think they have time to actually use it to get the tier 2 tower on the right, but I wouldn't be surprised if they still go for it even without the Fire Giant buff. It's difficult for CLG to really group up and play offensive. They need to be the ones to kind of wait for Trifecta to force something on the left side, though. Not taking the bite as both Snoopy and Homiefe backs on out of there. There was no vision, but without any sort of real concrete calls of where Trifecta are on the minimap, it's not worth split pushing that, especially without a tier 2 tower.
Now, what has CLG got to do to try and slow this down? Because this Gold Fury very likely is going to Trifecta, and fineokay can barely even step up into his jungle without being under duress. Jigz actually is. He's silenced. Mask comes in with the sash immediately into Draconic Corruption, but he lands down onto the Dharmic Pillars. He is able to jump away as Hurriwind looks for damage but can't find much.
Paul is doing a lot of damage, but Snoopy is the first victim as Paul gets it all out. Jigz trying to de-transform, but his jump not available. fineokay could be the 3rd victim as he gets knocked up by the Ganesha knockup. Goes through all 5 members. Trifecta with a 5-on-2. Scaredy zones away. Hurriwind go for probably the defense. Somebody needs to defend Homiefe because he could take out some towers very quickly.
Yeah, there just was not enough from CLG there in the jungle to try and make that team fight happen. And it started because fineokay comes up to try and like just check the buff, see if they can grab him. And Trifecta immediately snag on that bait which dangled out there. And it's not really bait. They want that fight. And it ends up working in their favor. They're able to grab 2 more quick kills. And now they come over and grab the Fire Giant as well. Homie may be on a mission, but it is not going to stop Trifecta.
You're asking me what CLG needed to do to kind of get back into this game. And some of these team fights need to be a little bit cleaner. I haven't really seen the Searing Pain impact onto Paul and trying to focus fire. There needs to be more jerseys around Paul and shutting him out of the game because he's sitting at 5-0-3, 4 items deep thus far, and it's only going to get scarier from here on out.
They do need to have better target focus, but I give credit to Trifecta rather than blame for CLG for the lack of that because Trifecta have been disorienting them so well. They very often get that first pick, and that already kind of throws your plans in the air. Well, now we don't have Jigz to help out with the control in the fight because Mask picked him off earlier. Now we don't have Homie in this fight because Homie got caught out, and now we don't have some more extra control. Trifecta have done a good job disorienting CLG.
And part of that is also because of this Xbalanque Darkest of Night trying to disrupt the flow and how CLG wants to engage. During Darkest of Nights, Homiefe is not looking for a Mercury ultimate. He's going to wait that full duration of it. Same could be said about Hurriwind's Searing Pain. And basically everybody from CLG is like, all right, lights are out. It's time to go to bed. Let's just kind of retreat for 3 seconds and wait it out.
Goldfear going to be going the way of Trifecta as well as the Gold League continues to climb at this point. Will be about 10,000 or so out in their favor. And 21 minutes into the match. It's still early. That's very much relevant for CLG to try and have to defend with. They're still pretty far behind in those build paths. Look at NeiruMah early on electing to go into the Void Stone as his 4th item right after Sovereignty, not even wanting the Heart Word, wants to help his team do even more damage.
With Paul being this far ahead, always with red buff, already level 20, the first one in the game to reach that milestone is going to be the additional boost that they need. And look how confident Paul is. That's not a corner you want to be as a mid-mage, but there's nothing to really take advantage of for CLG. They don't have a Sobek, they don't have Athena to pluck him, and Homiefe is not going to be there to look for the dash.
Paul has played really well for Trifecta here. They needed someone to come in and be aggressive for them in this game, and Paul fits that to a T. Scaredy continues to push in the mid lane. Meanwhile, the aggression is on in left. Metyankey already going for the shots. Hurriwind snipe again does not hit home, but fineokay and Jigz are ready to jump in. Damage does come into Paul, as well as the mounted archery, but the pull on the Snoopy right into the Tycho drums. Paul finds the last hit and takes him down. Double kill for the new mid laner for Trifecta. Already they're off to a good start.
The awareness from Paul to turn around and save his life, the teammate's life, as CLG's Titan begins to falter. fineokay gets stunned out, taken out by Mask. Only Hurriwind and Jigz to defend this one.
Yeah, I think the Trifecta have a chance to go for the end right here, Toli. If they want to, Scaredy is going to take up the Titan. Hurriwind is going to get plucked, pulled right back in, and immediately under duress, Mask finds the damage necessary. Trifecta, they want to gain 3 up against CLG.
Congratulations to Trifecta on the second game, but still needs one more. The best of 3 set between these two have now become a best of 1 in week 1.
That's right. Best of 1. That's the official terminology for that. But wow, what a turnaround performance from Trifecta there, Toli. In particular, I really love the way their jungle and mid were playing together. Mask and playing together there with Paul, they looked excellent.
It was the aggression from Paul. I think there was something mentally wrong with CLG in that game. Sure. After the call towards the Goldfear, it was a very sketchy call to begin with. The window in our eyes were obvious. Maybe it was a little bit less obvious in the eyes of Trifecta. And CLG, they need to find a way to bounce back and seal the deal, because Trifecta, if they play like that in game 3, it's lights out.
Trifecta could very easily punish them. Who was your MVP, though? Make sure to go ahead and vote for us so we can know who you thought was the one that helped the most getting that game done for Trifecta. I don't know. They look like a big team to me. It's hard to pick one out in particular.
Very difficult, but it's probably going to be Paul.
Probably going to be Paul, right? He comes into the SPL, second game ever, and bouncing back from a tough game 1 loss, too, to have a huge performance like that in the Raijin. That's huge.
And a good solo kill also onto Hurriwind. That takes advantage of the fact that he wasn't on the Giannis.
That's right. Able to punish this raw pick from Hurriwind, but we'll let the desk go ahead and break down all the nitty-gritty for you. Tom and Taco, take it away.
Thanks a lot, guys. Tom and Taco here to go to game number 3. And hot damn, Trifecta really turning it up.
That was a very impressive turnaround set from Trifecta, and also a really important one because I think they needed that momentum swing pretty heavily here heading into Game 3. Plus, it can kind of get in the heads of CLG a little bit, but that was a very commanding presence from everybody up at Trifecta. I saw some pretty impressive stuff from Metyankey and, of course, Paul.
90,000 player damage for Trifecta, 69 for team damage. Not so nice for Counterlogic Gaming. But one that I really enjoyed was how strong Mask looked. I think this team, Mask doesn't have to be the guy, but this team is better when Mask does well.
That was probably the most concerning part of the draft, and for my eyes at least, is the NeiruMah, just because we've heard talks from like a lot of the pros in the past even, and a lot of the junglers even, where they're not really huge fans of NeiruMah because sure, he can introduce a lot of damage. Being able to isolate a single target is also really important during team fights, but you do have to have your concerns towards the interrupt factor, and I just don't think that Homie was able to work his way in with the Mercury.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic there. NeiruMah has a splendid early and a splendid late, and that mid game is kind of where he falters. But late game, I actually like him into the Mercury because I think you can control it, but the itemization can be a little bit scary. That's all the ifs. The actuality of it was that Mask did well, and he set up for his mid lane. New pickup Paul. Most valuable Paul here. MVP for the mid lane Raijin.
Most valuable Paul.
You like that?
That's actually really fitting here, but he did kill it on the Raijin. Lots of damage, really, and everything about this pick, it kind of just screams Paul right back at you. It's perfect because we even saw him. This is actually the first solo kill instance that he had between Paul and Hurriwind, and this is what he was looking for in Game 1 with the Agni. He just couldn't find it because Hurriwind was way too slippery on that Giannis, but not being able to escape this time around. Raw, a little bit less mobile, and Paul took full advantage of it, built up a huge lead off of that solo kill, was able to fully control that lane, and because of it, CLG were never able to properly utilize that raw sustain for their own team fights.
Also, there's a ton of Smite. We took a look at the year schedule and the summer schedule earlier in the day, and there's a ton of Smite to be played. We are literally not even done with Paul's first set. But the point that I'm clarifying very quick, I need to clarify it, is that right now I've been afraid that Paul's pub stomp mentality and over-aggression that he showed in the SML would not translate to the Pro League. But I've seen a refined Paul here. In game number 1, game number 2, Paul is still looking to frag out. Shout out to the kill against Hurriwind. But he's reeled it in. He's not diving the Phoenixes. He's not doing this crazy stuff. And that, to me, is the scariest part.
Well, he did go into the fountain room, but his team was working on sieging the Phoenix in the process. I think that we've always seen those kind of little moments, though, from Paul, where, like, if he's convinced or mostly convinced that his team is going to be able to secure the objective, and then he's down to Paul it up and go straight into that Titan room and look for another kill or two. And I thought that was going to end up leading to more, but he ends up calling it quits at the double.
I mean, it's funny because Paul right here embodies. Once upon a time, Zapman was the one diving your Phoenixes, and then he reeled it in a little bit, and I think that's really where Zapman became the legendary hunter that we know him as, right? After he took his over-aggression and refined it and stayed with his foot on the gas, but also kind of, maybe downshifted a little bit. That's kind of scary that we're seeing that at Paul. Funny that he shifts Zapman off of the team for it, but he comes in really, really hot, and he's sort of shifting here to the Pro League.
I think he's definitely earned his place to be here, though, and I know that it could be looked at as too early to call it, but this Trifecta team already feeling a million times more sound than before. I don't know what it is, but it just feels like it's more fluid. There's a lot more working like clockwork going on, and you can kind of just feel all of these players doing or being able to play off of each other a little bit better than in the past, because it just felt like there was always something missing prior or during the duration of the spring split. But now entering the summer, I think that this is certainly going to be a team, win or lose in Game 3, that we need to keep an eye out for.
I absolutely buy that.